For decades, hunters have been told the same story. If you want better performance in the field, you need a bigger cartridge, more velocity, more energy, more recoil. That belief is exactly why Magnum cartridges exploded in popularity. Rifles chambered in .300 Winchester mag, 7mm Remington mag, and a whole lineup of ultra magnums promised incredible long-range performance and power that looked unstoppable on a ballistic chart. On paper, the logic seemed obvious: bigger cartridge, bigger results. But something unexpected started happening in the real world. Instead of upgrading to larger and more powerful magnums, many hunters quietly began returning to something far simpler. The point? .308 Winchester. Not because it suddenly became more powerful, but because once the hunt actually begins, many of the advantages magnums promise start to fade. And today, we're going to break down exactly why the .308 is quietly outperforming hunting magnums where it matters most. Magnum cartridges were originally designed around one central idea: velocity. More powder behind the bullet means more speed leaving the barrel, and that speed translates into greater energy downrange. On paper, the concept is incredibly appealing. Higher velocity produces flatter trajectories, which means less bullet drop at longer distances. It also means the bullet carries more energy when it reaches the target. When you compare raw numbers on a ballistic chart, Magnum cartridges often look dramatically superior. A cartridge like the .300 Winchester Magnum pushing a 180-grain bullet clearly outperforms a .308 Winchester in terms of velocity, energy, and long-range trajectory. There is no real debate about that. But ballistic charts only tell part of the story. Hunting doesn't happen on spreadsheets or marketing brochures. It happens in real environments, under real conditions, with real limitations. And once you step out of the ballistic calculator and into the field, the advantages that look overwhelming on paper often begin to shrink. When many hunters think about Magnum cartridges, they picture extreme distances. Wide open mountain valleys, elk standing across a canyon, and shots stretching out to 600 or 700 yards. That image has become part of modern hunting culture. But when you step away from the stories and look at real harvest data, the picture changes dramatically. The vast majority of animals taken across North America are harvested inside 300 yards, and often much closer than that. White-tailed deer, hogs, black bear, mule deer, and even many elk are typically taken between 100 and 300 yards. Inside that range, the dramatic ballistic advantages of Magnum cartridges shrink far more than most people expect. At 200 yards, a .308 Winchester loaded with a well-designed hunting bullet still delivers tremendous energy and reliable terminal performance. It is more than capable of producing clean, ethical harvests. Which raises a simple question: if most real shots happen inside 300 yards, do hunters truly need Magnum cartridges at all? There is another factor that hunters don't always discuss openly, and that factor is ammunition cost. A typical box of .308 hunting ammunition is relatively affordable and widely available from major manufacturers like Federal, Hornady, Winchester, and Remington. There are dozens of load options, covering different bullet weights and designs. When you compare that to Magnum cartridges, such as the .300 Winchester Magnum, the difference becomes obvious. The price per round can easily double, sometimes even more depending on the load. That price gap changes how hunters train. A shooter using a .308 might spend entire afternoons at the range, practicing regularly, confirming zero, and refining shooting positions. In contrast, a hunter using an expensive Magnum often fires only a few rounds before the season begins. And the reality is simple: The hunter who practices more almost always becomes the hunter who shoots better. Now let's talk about something even more practical than cost, and that is ammunition availability. The .308 Winchester has a major advantage because it is closely related to the 7.62 NATO cartridge, which has been produced in enormous quantities for decades. That connection means there is a massive global supply chain behind it. Military production, civilian manufacturing, competition loads, and hunting ammunition all contribute to keeping the cartridge widely available. As a result, .308 ammunition can be found almost everywhere, from small-town hardware stores and local gun shops to large retailers and online suppliers. When hunting season arrives and store shelves begin to thin out, the .308 is often one of the last cartridges still available. Magnum cartridges rarely have that level of supply. They are produced in smaller batches, and when demand rises, they tend to disappear quickly. For hunters in remote areas, having a cartridge that is always available can make a huge difference. Now, let's talk about something your shoulder probably understands better than any ballistic chart: recoil. A typical .308 hunting rifle produces somewhere around 15 to 18 foot-pounds of recoil. That level of kick is noticeable, but for most shooters, it remains comfortable and manageable during long-range sessions. Now compare that to a cartridge like the .300 Winchester Magnum. In a similar weight rifle, recoil can jump to somewhere between 26 and 30 foot-pounds. That is a significant increase, and it does more than just make the rifle uncomfortable to shoot. Heavy recoil begins to influence shooter behavior. After several shots, many shooters start anticipating the impact. Shoulders tense up, trigger control becomes less precise, and accuracy begins to suffer. With the .308, shooters tend to stay relaxed, shoot longer sessions, and maintain tighter groups. That consistency often translates directly into better accuracy when it matters most in the field. Another factor that becomes extremely important in real hunting situations is the ability to deliver fast and controlled follow-up shots. When a powerful Magnum cartridge is fired, the recoil impulse can lift the rifle significantly. The sight picture often disappears for a moment, and the shooter must spend valuable time reacquiring the target through the scope. In contrast, the recoil from a .308 Winchester is noticeably softer. The rifle settles back on target much more quickly, allowing the shooter to maintain visual contact with the impact area. In many cases, the hunter can even spot the bullet strike through the scope. If a second shot becomes necessary, that quicker recovery makes it far easier to deliver it accurately and without delay. For animals such as hogs, elk, or any moving game, that speed can matter a great deal because hunting rarely ends with a single perfect shot. Now let's look at how the .308 performs where it truly matters: on real game animals. One of the reasons this cartridge has remained so popular is its versatility. The .308 Winchester comfortably covers nearly every species most North American hunters pursue. White-tailed deer, mule deer, pronghorn, hogs, and black bear all fall well within the performance range of this cartridge. With a typical 150 to 165 grain hunting bullet traveling close to 2,700 feet per second, the .308 delivers strong terminal performance and reliable penetration. Even elk are well within its capability when the hunter keeps distances reasonable and uses a well-constructed bullet. Modern projectile design has played a major role in expanding the effectiveness of the cartridge. Bonded bullets, classic partition designs, and solid copper monolithic projectiles all offer controlled expansion and deep penetration. allowing the .308 to perform far beyond what many hunters once expected. Another advantage that often goes unnoticed is the design efficiency of short-action rifles. The .308 Winchester was built around a shorter cartridge case, which allows rifle manufacturers to design actions with reduced bolt travel. That smaller mechanical movement brings several practical benefits. Rifles can be built lighter, which matters when hunters are carrying them through mountains, forests, or long days in the field. The shorter bolt throw also allows faster cycling, making follow-up shots quicker and more controlled. In addition, the compact action tends to be stiffer, which can contribute to improved accuracy and consistency over time. These advantages are a big reason why so many rifle manufacturers prioritize the .308 when designing new hunting rifles. Companies like Savage, Ruger, Tikka, Browning, and Bergara almost always include it in their lineup. From entry-level rifles to premium mountain guns, the .308 remains one of the most common chamberings available, simply because it continues to perform and continues to sell. There is also a psychological side to cartridge selection that many hunters don't openly discuss. Magnum cartridges carry a certain reputation. They sound powerful, they feel powerful, and they promise extreme performance at long distances. For many shooters, that appeal is hard to ignore. Owning a Magnum rifle can feel like having the most capable tool available, but in reality, excitement and practicality are not always the same thing. Many hunters end up choosing cartridges based on how impressive they sound rather than how well they actually fit their needs. The truth is that most hunting situations don't require extreme velocity or massive recoil. What hunters truly benefit from is a rifle they can handle comfortably, shoot accurately, and practice with regularly. They also need ammunition that is affordable and easy to find. When those practical factors come together, consistency improves, confidence grows, and field performance becomes more reliable. That combination of practicality and effectiveness is exactly where the .308 Winchester continues to stand out. In the end, the .308 Winchester didn't suddenly become the most powerful cartridge on the market. Magnum cartridges still dominate when it comes to extreme long-range ballistics and raw energy numbers. But the .308 continues to win in the areas that matter most for everyday hunters. It offers practicality, affordable ammunition, consistent availability, and recoil that most shooters can manage comfortably. At realistic hunting distances, especially inside 300 yards, the cartridge delivers dependable accuracy and more than enough terminal performance for the majority of game animals hunters pursue. Because the rifle is easier to control, shooters can focus on fundamentals and shot placement instead of fighting recoil. And that is exactly why, decade after decade, the .308 Winchester remains one of the most trusted and widely used hunting cartridges in the world. Before we wrap up, I'd like to hear about your experience in the field. Are you still hunting with a Magnum cartridge, or have you switched back to something more practical like the .308 Winchester? Every hunter has a different story, and your experience might help someone else choose the right rifle for their next season. Share your thoughts down in the comments and let us know what cartridge you trust the most and why. If you found this breakdown helpful, please take a moment to support the channel by liking the video and subscribing. It really helps the channel grow and allows us to keep making more in-depth videos like this. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video.